What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Miller, if you like. So let's get into it. Um, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're at 66 subscribers now. Whenever we get to 100, I'll make sure to give something away, and then we'll go from there. So today, the news came down that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be opening up the season against the Philadelphia Eagles. Tough draw for the first game of the season. I'm actually kind of well, actually, I shouldn't be surprised. It's the Dallas Cowboys, so let me backtrack on that. Not surprised that they put the Dallas Cowboys in the opening game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, it's going to be an interesting way to start the season with a division game. You got healthy Saquon Barkley. You got the Slim Reaper, Devontae Smith. You got A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. It's going to be a big test for a Cowboys team that's probably not going to necessarily be peaking to start the season. Everything's a lot. There's a whole lot of new, right? You have Brian Schottenheimer, who's going to be calling plays, which he's not new to calling plays, but he hasn't called plays for the Dallas Cowboys. And, our last coach, Mike McCarthy, he was calling plays. So, now you're going to have Brian Schottenheimer, and we haven't seen his offense in a few years, right? Last time we saw him, it was probably in Seattle. So not sure what to make of his play calling style. Now, they've preached that they want to run the football and they preach that they want to be physical and set the tone at the line of scrimmage. So I'm guessing that will be a big emphasis in the beginning of the game, especially, or the beginning of the season, especially with your first game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I really do think that the Cowboys are going to try to come out and be physical because the Eagles are also going to be running the football. And so if you're out there, going three and out quite consistently, and on the other side, Philly's coming in there with that big, gigantic offensive line and Saquon Barkley, and they're kind of leaning on you. And Jalen Hurts likes to run the ball as well. And then, they're getting you for third and short, which, when it comes to Philly, that's automatic tush push. They're hitting you with play action passes because the running game's effective. So now A.J. Brown's getting open downfield. Devontae Smith's getting open downfield. Dallas Goedert's getting open over the middle. It could spell disaster for the Cowboys if they're not ready. But the other part about this, too, is like I just pointed to earlier, I don't expect the Cowboys to come out peaking at the beginning of the season. It's just too much newness. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that game goes. I'm pretty sure it'll start off, at the very least, it'll start off competitive. I don't know how competitive it'll end because I do believe that Philly's roster is head and shoulders above not just the Cowboys, but probably anybody in the NFC not named Detroit. Detroit has a pretty awesome roster as well. But as far as divisions, they're not playing Detroit, they're playing Dallas. So I do think that the Cowboys are going to have their hands full in that opening game. Now, one of the things that could go well for the Cowboys is I do see the vision for what Schottenheimer is trying to build. If you look at the way they drafted and then you look at the addition of Pickens, right? Because a lot of people have talked about, the 1 year rental thing. And honestly, I can't say that that's necessarily wrong, right? Third and a fifth, or a third and a pick swap because you get a six back as well. So a third rounder this year, upcoming year, 2026, and then a pick swap in 2027 for what could essentially be a 1 year rental for a team that's not necessarily ready to compete for a Super Bowl. I can't say that that point of view is wrong. All I can say is that I see what Brian Schottenheimer is trying to do. Now, this is the Cowboys, right? So what they've tried to do as opposed to what they've done, completely different things. This team hasn't won anything significant in 30 years. So take it for what you will as far as what they're trying to do. But the vision I see is when you grab someone like George Pickens and then you have CeeDee Lamb, you grab a fast running back in the draft with Blue, and then you also have a guy like Kevontae Turpin on the outside too. I feel like, especially if you have that big, strong offensive line, which it looks like the Cowboys are going to have, it looks like as the season goes on, the game plan is going to be, hey, let's use Pickens, let's use CD, let's use this running game to get a lead on people, right? If you can, these years past, the Cowboys have been at their best when they can score early, which they had a problem with last year, and get a lead on people. And then once you do that, now you bring in the waves of Micah Parsons and Izaraku and Sam Williams and Dante Fowler and those guys, and you let them pass rush, and then you let people like Deron Bland and I don't know if Siobhan Revo is going to be necessarily available week 1, but let's say he is. Let's say Elam, is there. Now you're letting your secondary sit on routes because with those pass rushers, you're winning early, you're winning quick, you're getting in the backfield, and you're forcing the quarterback to, on third downs and second and longs, to have to get rid of that ball quick because he knows those guys are coming, right? So that looks like it's the blueprint for what the Cowboys are trying to do. Mike McCarthy used to talk a lot about complementary football, but the Cowboys look like they're actually building a roster to be able to play complementary football, right? They have now a strong receiving core. Let's see how that running game works out. We still have to see it, even if I personally believe it'll be better than it was last year. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will be, right? Things happen in the NFL all the time. Players don't reach their potential. There definitely could be a scenario where Tyler Guyton takes a step back, or then George Pickens is volatile in the locker room, and now all of a sudden that stuff's not working. Dak aged faster than we thought, and all of a sudden now he's not necessarily hitting these guys where they need to go, and now that $60 million contract looks even worse. And on the flip side, Mozzie Smith takes a step back, and the linebackers that we brought in with Sanborn and Murray, and those guys, Maris Leafau doesn't take a second-year jump. Those other guys are just guys. There is a scenario where this can definitely go bad, but there also is a scenario where this could go great, where flip the switch is the opposite way of everything I'm talking. Maris Leafau takes a step. Izaraku is a really good rookie. Micah Parsons just continues to be himself. Mozzie takes a step forward in year 3. Tyler Guyton takes a step forward in year 2. And then you have other guys in there like Booker, and you have other guys in there like Cooper Beebe, who were already showing promise in their rookie years and, going into their rookie years. And now they turn up the level of success, and kind of meet some more of those expectations in a higher way. Now you talk about the Cowboys having a chance to possibly compete for a wild card spot. So, and honestly, it's not going to be one extreme and it's not going to be the other extreme. Most likely, it's going to fall somewhere in the middle, right? Some of these guys are going to do well. Maybe Mozzie does great and Cooper Beebe takes the next step, but Tyler Guyton's still just a guy, or vice versa. Maybe Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe take the next step, but Mozzie's just a guy. It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. Maybe Izaraku has some growing pains as a rookie, and maybe him being 248 pounds, even though to me it didn't look like a big issue on tape, especially with his length, maybe it is a big issue in the first year. He has more so of the Marshawn Nealon learning curve where he has to get into an off season and put on some weight and be able to help the team a little bit more in his second year instead of his first year. And is that enough time to make this George Pickens trade pay off? So it's an exciting move. I see the vision for what the Cowboys are trying to do, and I see a path to victory against the Philadelphia Eagles in the beginning there. But we're also going to have to wait and see how it goes getting through training camp, who's healthy, who's not healthy, what it looks like, right? Because let's say this running back room doesn't look great. Do the Cowboys sit on their hands, or do they go out and sign a Nick Chubb? Do they go out and trade for a Breece Hall? Some things that were rumored early on. I personally would like to see them maybe not necessarily go for Breece Hall or Nick Chubb now. You can do that later on, but maybe bring in one more body at a different position. Like, I'm still not opposed to signing Amari Cooper and having him be your third receiver. Put some pressure on those guys. Make Jonathan Mingle go take it. Make Jalen Tober go take it. Instead of doing what the Cowboys have been doing for these last few years and kind of grandfathering people in and letting them basically have their spot. When Jalen Tolbert was bumped up to the second and third receiver. The Cowboys didn't really bring in much competition. I know they brought in Ryan Flournoy, and I'd like to see how he develops in year two, but the sixth-round pick isn't necessarily bringing in top-level competition to push the guys on your roster, right? If you feel like you have a weakness on your roster, be significant like you did with the George Pickens trade. So I'm not opposed to them adding another body there. I'm not opposed to them adding a body to challenge Jay Toia and challenge Mozzie Smith, bringing a veteran there to kind of help those guys along a little bit. And on the same token, if those guys are not ready for week one, boom, then that veteran just takes it and we'll go from there. So it'll be interesting to see. We still have a long way to go. We still have veteran OTAs and we still have mandatory mini camps and all that stuff. But it was nice to get some news here for the schedule. It's going to be interesting because I believe on Wednesday we'll get the rest of the schedule. And this is going to be a tough year for the Cowboys anyway because they play the NFC North and I believe they play the AFC West. So they're going to be playing Denver and Kansas City and those guys. I don't see too much trouble from the Raiders, but hey, Pete Carroll's the coach over there now. Maybe it could be a little bit different. And then on the other side, they're going to be playing the Lions and they're going to be playing the Bears and the Packers and the Vikings. So, good luck stopping Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Good luck, not having the Packers whoop that ass like they did in that playoff game. It's just going to be very interesting to see once the schedule is released how we're feeling about this team and see the ups and downs in the NFL because the things that we think about teams in the offseason, very rarely, unless you're talking about like the Chiefs, which everybody thinks, hey, they're going to go to the Super Bowl, and then they do. But a lot of these other teams, a lot of times these guys are wrong. This team's going to suck, then they're good. This team's going to be good, then they suck. This team's going to be middle of the pack, they're bottom of the league. This team's going to be bottom of the league. Oh, shoot, they went worse the first and made the playoffs. Nobody had Denver, going to the playoffs last year. So just fortunes can change very easily, very quickly. And I'm looking forward to see the rest of the schedule. And that's just one piece of the pie, right? Everything else still has to come into place. And I'm eager and excited to see how it all goes. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's all I got for you guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter at JMillerIYL. That's JMiller if you like. You can also hit me up at knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Again, knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. You can hit me at knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. If you have any questions, you can leave comments below. I'll take them here. I'll take them via Twitter, take them via email, roll it into a mailbag, make it a formal segment. But like I said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Love you guys. Until next time, I'm your host, J Mill. J Mill if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.